I started dating Eliza when she was at her lowest point. For 3 years, she lived in my apartment, and I paid for everything. The day she was supposed to go back to her old life, I used the last of my savings to buy her a present. I was preparing myself to say goodbye. But then I heard her talking to someone. "He's not actually my boyfriend," she said. "Just think of him as a little friend I keep around." I hid the present behind my back. Forget it, I thought. It would be better to just disappear on her. Later, she would spend 3 days and 3 nights kneeling in a church, praying for just one more chance to see me. I walked back to our rented place, the entire way replaying the goodbye speech I had been practicing in my head. But as I reached the door, I heard Eliza's voice coming from the other room. "Lucas isn't my boyfriend. From now on, just think of him as a little friend I keep around." Her tone was casual, but the words felt like a physical stab. My hand gripped the gift bag tighter. My chest felt heavy, and it was hard to breathe. So that's all I was to her. Suddenly, the apartment door opened. A woman in a sharp business suit saw me and froze. I moved slightly to the side. Behind her, Eliza was still wearing the cheap t-shirt I had bought her. When she saw me standing outside the door, her face tightened. "Lucas, you're back early." I pushed the gift further behind me. I forced a smile. "Yeah, work let out early today." Before she could say anything else, I mumbled an excuse about getting bubble tea and turned to head back downstairs. Our apartment was in a very old, run-down part of the city, but just one alley over you could see the beautiful, sparkling metropolis. I stared at the bright neon lights that I knew so well. My vision became blurry. The huge amount of hurt I had been trying to hide finally broke free, turning into hot tears that streamed down my face. I heard 2 girls nearby, their voices excited. "Wow, the New York heiress. She's seriously gorgeous. It's like a billionaire family drama playing out in real life." The whole city was currently talking about the famous heiress returning to her family's good graces, and that heiress was Eliza. I pulled out my phone. The news was still completely dominated by Eliza. I watched a video I had seen earlier that afternoon. Her beautiful, queenly face looked straight at the camera as she said no to a more detailed interview. But she did say there was one person she was very thankful for. When reporters asked for a name, she refused to say. It was ridiculous. How could I have been so foolish to think she was talking about me? 3 years ago, Eliza lost a terrible family power struggle and was kicked out of New York's elite world. I was the one who found her back in my small, rural hometown. At the time, she couldn't see and couldn't walk. She had been pushed out of a car and left on the side of the road like a homeless person. After I brought her home, she tried to end her life several times. I stayed by her side silently until she gave up on the idea. She never talked about her past. But I knew she was Eliza Thompson, the once famous New York heiress. This was because of a small act of kindness when she was in high school, an act that changed the lives of all the poor kids in my village, including mine. The Thompson family had set up a charity fund in her name for all the kids in our village, both boys and girls. The foundation paid for all our expenses from high school through college. But the foundation only lasted for a few years. I happened to be in the last group of students who benefited from it before graduating from college. I met Eliza once when I started high school. Back then, she was very pale and looked frail and sickly. She represented the foundation and handed me the financial aid package herself. When our eyes met, it was like looking at something extremely bright. She was that stunning. But she was clearly struggling to hide her impatience, just barely managing to pose for a group photo with us. The next time I saw her, I had graduated from college and was working as a sales associate at a high-end department store. She walked in wearing a fitted women's suit, her beautiful, wealthy-looking face marked with a tired expression. The store manager and department head immediately rushed to greet her. Outside, security guards were putting up ropes to clear the store for her. I heard a coworker next to me whisper in admiration, "It's Ms. Thompson. If you sell something to her, you'll meet your sales goal for the month." I watched from a distance, a small smile on my lips. She had changed so much over the years. The awkwardness of high school was gone, replaced by the refined look of an adult. Her face was more defined, her presence more striking. My coworker thought I was just staring and nudged me with his elbow. "She's gorgeous, right? Don't even think about it. She's one of the biggest heiresses in New York." I snapped back to reality, but my smile didn't go away. Suddenly, Eliza took a phone call. She started shouting in a mix of Mandarin and English, then quickly stormed out of the store. Based on the few sentences they overheard, my coworkers immediately started spreading rumors. The Thompson family power struggle is heating up. The media is saying the old matriarch is on her way out. The second branch of the family is most likely to take over. Eliza was the daughter of the family's first branch, but her mother had been in a car accident years ago and was in a coma. I secretly hoped she would win the terrible family fight. I never expected that a few months later, on a trip back to my hometown, I would be the one to find her defeated. In the months I took care of her, her leg injury slowly healed. Eventually, she listened to my advice and stopped trying to give up on herself. She agreed to go to the hospital to treat her eye condition. I used all my savings and even went into debt to pay for the surgery. We stayed in New York. Sometimes I would stand with her on a hill, looking out toward the glittering lights of Upper East Side. She never explained why, until the anniversary of her mother's death when she suddenly held on to me. She buried her head in my shoulder, her body shaking as she struggled to say the painful words. "They killed my mom, and then they kicked me out of the city. They said I could never set foot there again in this life." I felt a cold wetness on my shoulder. It was the tears she had been holding back for so long. She told me about all the terrible secrets in her family. I cried with her, but I also made sure to encourage her. Where there's life, there's hope. After that, we stayed in New York for 3 years. We were squeezed into my tiny rented apartment. During the day, I went to work at the high-end store. Eliza was busy with her own things. Sometimes I would talk to rich clients from Upper East Side. I'd listen to them talk about the changes happening within the Thompson family. Then, a little while ago, I heard that the head of the Thompson family was involved in a murder case, and the family's first lady, previously said to be in a vegetative state, had woken up. The leadership of the Thompson family was about to change. I knew Eliza was very likely about to take back her position as the city's top heiress. I had already been practicing my farewell speech. But for days, every time I practiced it in my head, I couldn't stop myself from getting choked up. Today, I heard that people from her world had already arrived. I used the last of the savings I had managed to save over the past 6 months. I bought a silk pocket square from the store. I thought it would be a nice parting gift. Our worlds were too different. This was where it had to end. But I never expected her to think of me that way. A wave of hurt and anger washed over me. It took a long time to calm myself down before I went to a bubble tea shop to buy tea. An hour later, I returned to the apartment with the drink. Eliza had showered and was wearing the cheap pajamas I had bought her. She didn't explain the woman in the business suit from earlier. She just stared at me with her deep eyes, as if waiting for me to ask something. I don't know why, but the small, cozy apartment suddenly felt too small and suffocating. The cheap wallpaper was peeling away, showing a stained patch of wall underneath, making the place look even poorer. I looked away, trying to sound normal. The bubble tea shop has a new special. I had to wait in line for over half an hour. As I spoke, I unwrapped a straw, put it in the cup, and took a big sip before offering it to her. "You should try it." She didn't take it. A heavy silence settled between us. I awkwardly pulled my hand back. Right. She was about to go back to being a high society heiress. Why would she want to drink this cheap stuff anymore, let alone share a cup with someone? But I still remembered when we first got together. She used to complain about me eating junk food, then lean over and take a sip from my bubble tea. A sharp pain hit my chest. I pretended to be hot and put the drink down, heading for the bathroom. When I came out of the shower, the light overhead flickered a few times. Then it burned out completely, plunging the room into darkness. In the dark, Eliza wrapped her arms around me. I reached up to push her away, but then I heard her say, "Lucas, we'll be together forever." I mumbled a soft, "Oh." My heart sank. Together forever, as her little friend? I didn't let Eliza see how upset I was. I felt my way in the dark toward the hairdryer. She turned on her phone's flashlight to help me dry my hair. She even said she loved the pocket square I gave her. I realized then that she had already opened my gift. The explanation I was about to give died on my lips. I just grunted. "Glad you like it." The next day, I left at my usual time for work. But at the end of the alley, several expensive cars were already parked. A graceful woman in her 50s, surrounded by bodyguards, was walking toward the alley entrance. It was Eliza's mother. I had seen her picture in magazines. Back at the store, I handed in my resignation. I even purposely told them Eliza was my girlfriend. When my manager heard, he approved my resignation right away. He even said he'd help make the process simple and fast. I could be completely finished in 2 weeks at the latest. I smiled and thanked her, then asked her to keep my departure a secret. After taking care of all that, I didn't rush back. I wandered around outside until evening before returning to the apartment. Eliza wasn't there. The small rental felt huge and empty. 3 years of memories we had made here flashed through my mind, moment by moment. As I thought about it, my eyes filled up again. Suddenly, I heard the sound of the door opening. I quickly blinked back the tears. Eliza was wearing a custom-made suit. A white silk shirt was neatly tucked into perfectly ironed pants. Her suit jacket was draped over her left arm. Her refined, expensive look was completely out of place in our old, run-down apartment. Our eyes met, and she gave a small smile, dangling the bubble tea in her right hand. "I bought you bubble tea." Her long, thin fingers lightly hooked the edge of the plastic bag. I got up to take it, and caught the faint smell of alcohol on her. I figured she must have been at some fancy dinner, dressed like that. But as usual, she didn't offer a single word of explanation. And I was the only one drinking the bubble tea. After I had absent-mindedly finished half of it, Eliza suddenly grabbed my hand and pulled me out the door. Outside, a driver was waiting in a luxury car. As soon as he saw Eliza, he got out and opened the back door for us. The multi-million-dollar car sped down the road. It took us straight to the same hillside overlook I had taken her to before. Below us were the glittering neon lights of the city. Across the way was Upper East Side, the place she had longed for. Eliza linked her arm through mine and spoke softly. "Lucas, I have to go back for a bit tomorrow." The separation I had expected for a long time was finally here. I calmly replied, "Yeah, I saw the news. Congratulations. The news also said that when she went back, she would be getting engaged to a rich young man. Once I get things sorted out, I'll come back and get you. Her voice was filled with a happy excitement, her tone rising. I looked down at her. Seeing her look of absolute certainty, I swallowed the words, "As what?" and asked instead, "Take me there for what?" "To live." Her hand suddenly gripped mine tightly, but the warmth of her touch couldn't reach my heart. The words "little friend" flashed in my mind again, sending a wave of hurt through me. I didn't push her for more, just giving a small hum of acknowledgement. Not noticing anything wrong, she made a confident and sure promise. "Lucas, no matter what, no one can ever shake your place with me." I smiled. I hid the lump in my throat and the sting in my eyes in the darkness. A mountain breeze blew past. It was a summer night, but I felt like I was standing in the dead of winter. The day I finished my resignation process, Eliza still hadn't returned from Upper East Side. The media had reported a few things about her trip. For instance, the high-profile engagement that everyone was watching. Eliza had also explained it to me via text. "Nothing can shake your place in my heart, Lucas. Wait for me. I'll be back to get you on Tuesday." I cleverly didn't ask any more questions. I just sent back a smiley face emoji to make her think I understood. Today was Tuesday. I took one last look around the apartment. I grabbed the handle of my packed suitcase and walked away. The sky was gray and cloudy, threatening rain. The sound of my suitcase wheels mixed with the noise from the street, echoing in my ears. I walked to the end of the alley and stopped. Through a gap in the crowd, I saw a black luxury car parked on the side of the road. A bodyguard opened the back door. Eliza, dressed in a sharp business suit, stepped out. She adjusted her collar and started walking toward the alley. I turned off my phone and put in the new SIM card I had bought a couple of days ago. I pushed through the crowd, walking in the opposite direction. Eliza returned to the empty apartment, but saw no sign of Lucas. I told him I'd be here to pick him up today. "Where is he?" She picked up her phone to call him, but it went straight to voicemail. A bad feeling crept into her heart. She looked over at the corner where he kept his suitcase. Sure enough, the familiar bag was gone. She checked the closet, and the empty hangers confirmed Lucas's departure. A look of panic spread across Eliza's face. Her hand trembled as she tried calling him again. Still voicemail. Without a second thought, she bolted out of the apartment, jumped in her car, and told the driver to head straight for the luxury department store. Just as they pulled up outside, a heavy downpour suddenly started. Eliza didn't have time to grab an umbrella and ran through the rain into the store. The manager greeted her happily. "Ms. Thompson, where's Lucas?" Eliza, her hair soaked and stuck to her forehead, looked around the floor. Ignoring her own messy state, her eyes desperately searched for a familiar person, but he wasn't there. Her panic grew stronger. She turned on the stunned manager and demanded again, "I'm asking you a question. Where is Lucas?" The manager finally recovered. "Oh, Lucas quit." Quit? When? Why didn't she know? And why would he quit? Before Eliza could ask her questions, the manager's answer left her frozen in place. "About 2 weeks ago. Isn't that the day after my family's people came to find me?" The manager saw Eliza's expression turn cold and felt a chill. Fearing she'd be blamed, she quickly added an explanation. "Lucas said he was going to Upper East Side with you, so we made his departure process fast for him." In that moment, Eliza felt as if all her strength had been drained away. Her shoulders slumped. Her back seemed to curve. Staring at the water dripping onto the floor at her feet, the corners of her eyes turned red. Her hands clenched into tight fists. Her knuckles turned white. The manager grew even more uneasy and weakly reminded her. "Ms. Thompson, was there some kind of misunderstanding? Lucas left about 2 hours ago. Maybe you can still find him if you look now." Eliza lifted her reddened eyes, said nothing, and walked out of the store. I left New York and moved to Boston. At first, I could still see videos of Eliza online. Everyone was still trying to find the story of her difficult journey back to the top. Everyone wanted to know how she had spent her 3 lost years. The rumors of her high-profile engagement were also still circulating, fueled by speculation. The last video I saw of her was from a formal interview where she told the host, "He is the irreplaceable, most important person in my life." After a pause, she looked deep into the camera and said again, "He always will be." But she still didn't say my name. After that day, all videos and news about Eliza vanished overnight. The next time I heard anything about Eliza was 2 years later. She had become the acting head of the Thompson family. The media said her mother's health had gotten worse. Although she was only the acting head, the main decision-making power was already in Eliza's hands. I calmly watched the video on my phone. The Eliza on screen was even more royal and colder than before. She had the complete power of someone at the top. My coworker nudged me slightly. "You're a fan of the New York heiress too? Actually, at this point, she might be the next queen of New York." I put my phone away and just gave a slight smile. My coworker was still complaining about his own fate. "Sigh, even though we sales associates get to deal with these rich people all the time, we can never be one of them." I nodded in agreement. "I guess so." Suddenly, the manager came in and told me to go take care of a VIP client. Said he was a young man from a powerful New York family. He refuses to speak English, insists on Mandarin. Money is no problem. Handle him well, and you won't have to worry about your numbers this month. Full of motivation, I walked out of the stockroom and went up to the second-floor VIP lounge. The client was already sitting on the sofa, quietly reading a magazine. With my years of experience in high-end retail, I could tell right away that everything he was wearing was ridiculously expensive. His outfit alone was worth more than an ordinary person could make in a lifetime. The invisible class difference had, in fact, always been clearly marked with a price tag. I smiled and approached, greeting him in Mandarin. "Mr. Chen, hello." He didn't bother to acknowledge me right away. His hand, adorned with an expensive watch, casually flipped through the magazine. After a moment, he slowly lifted his head to look at me, his tone carrying the arrogance of the upper class. "Your Mandarin has a bit of a New York accent. Are you from there?" "No, I just learned that dialect." After I got into high school, I often watched movies from there and taught myself Mandarin. During those years with Eliza, I taught her English, and she corrected my Mandarin accent. Over time, her English became more and more standard, and my Mandarin could fool people into thinking I was a native speaker. My coworker brought over all the new arrivals of clothing and shoes. Mr. Chen casually pointed to a jacket and ordered me, "Go try this on." Trying on clothes for clients was part of the service at a luxury store. I did as I was told. This Mr. Chen was also very generous. Almost every item that fit me, he nodded and said he'd take. In the blink of an eye, he had racked up a bill of nearly $1 million. He didn't even flinch. My service became even more careful. He seemed very pleased with how I behaved. After picking out some bags, he wanted to try on shoes. I brought the pair he'd selected over to him. He said nothing, just picked up his teacup with his left hand and stuck his foot out. I bent down to change his shoes, but he quickly pulled his foot back. He shot me a look. "Is this how you people serve customers? Squatting?" I prefer kneeling. I glanced at the commission number hanging in the balance and knelt on one knee without a second thought. I took off his shoe. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the staircase. From above me, Mr. Chen's excited voice called out, "Eliza, you're here!" That familiar name hit me like a bucket of ice water. I froze, almost forgetting how to react. Mr. Chen, with one shoe off, waved to her. "I'm trying on shoes." The footsteps behind me grew closer. My grip on the new shoe tightened slightly. I took a deep breath, pretended to be calm, and slipped the shoe onto Mr. Chen's foot. "Perfect. Put the other one on for me." Mr. Chen stretched his leg out, satisfied, waiting for me to continue serving him. I did as I was told, but then I saw a pair of black women's high heels stop right in front of me. A sharp look swept down from above. I didn't dare look up. I just reached for the other new shoe and slid it onto Mr. Chen's foot. He stood up happily and checked himself in the mirror. He didn't forget to ask Eliza, who was standing to the side, for her opinion. "Eliza, do these shoes look good?" Eliza gave a barely audible, "Hum." I kept my eyes down and slowly stood up. I started giving flattering compliments at Mr. Chen's reflection in the mirror. I didn't dare shift my gaze even a tiny bit to the side. He was delighted by my compliments and cheerfully said he'd take them. Then he pointed to the other shoes nearby. "Let me try those pairs on too." Eliza was blocking my path, so I had to go around her. As I passed, her shoulder brushed against mine. The sudden contact was like a pebble dropped into a pond, gone in an instant. Next, Mr. Chen picked out several more pairs of shoes. Finally, he said generously, "Ring me up." I was about to take his card, but I heard Eliza's flat voice stop me. "Just this pair of shoes is fine. He doesn't need the rest." A quietness fell over the VIP lounge. I felt as if my body had been encased in cement, unable to move. What did she mean? My coworker, who was helping me, awkwardly recovered. He immediately tried to save the massive sale. "But Mr. Chen looks so good in them." If Eliza says no, then no it is. The arrogant Mr. Chen instantly transformed into a gentle and understanding man. He hung on Eliza's every word. Seeing $1 million commission about to disappear, I finally couldn't stop myself from looking up at Eliza. She was wearing a dark women's suit. Her face was strong, her jawline sharp. She gave off an air of cold authority. Her eyes fixed on me were as sharp as a hawk's, as if trying to see right through me. Our silent eye contact created an invisible pressure. I hadn't seen her in over 2 years, and her presence was even more powerful than it appeared in videos. Thinking of the commission I was about to lose, I couldn't help but ask, "Is Ms. Thompson dissatisfied with something?" She scoffed. "I'm dissatisfied with you." As she spoke, a chilling, almost unnoticeable smirk played on her lips. Then, without even taking the shoes, she turned and walked out. I stood there, humiliated. I looked at the room full of tried-on clothes, shoes, and bags. My eyes couldn't help but turn red. My coworker, furious, whispered angrily in my ear, "That woman is crazy! It's not like she was paying. What's her problem? All style, no substance." The manager came upstairs and immediately started yelling at me. "Lucas, what did I tell you just now? That Mr. Chen is a big shot from New York. You just let him walk out, empty-handed." "Manager, it wasn't Lucas's fault. It was that woman being cheap and petty." "What do you mean, that woman? That's the New York heiress. You think she's short on cash for a new wardrobe?" I was so scolded I couldn't argue. My coworker tried to defend me, but I reached out and stopped him. "It was my fault. I didn't serve the client well." "How much better could you serve them? You have to get on both knees to be sincere. These rich people think they own the world. But the manager wasn't listening. He just told me to write a 2,000-word self-criticism report, or I could quit. Then he left me to clean up the entire room by myself. Eliza. She did it on purpose. She was getting revenge for me leaving without a word. When I got off work that evening and walked out of the department store, I saw a black luxury car parked at the side of the building. I ignored it and walked along the sidewalk toward the subway station. Just as I reached the entrance, the car finally pulled up. Eliza rushed out and caught up to me. She grabbed my arm fiercely and wouldn't let go. "Lucas, you stop right there!" She was probably furious because she was gripping my arm with all her strength. For a second, I had the illusion that she was trying to snap my arm in two. The subway entrance was crowded with people. I didn't want to block the way, so I shifted to the side. Then I lifted my eyes and looked at her calmly. "Ms. Thompson, can I help you?" Her eyes widened in disbelief. "What did you call me?" The words were so tense they seemed to be squeezed from between her teeth. I acted as if I hadn't noticed and answered her calmly. "Ms. Thompson." The grip on my wrist loosened for half a second. Then it clamped down even tighter. She pulled me into her arms, angry and dominating, hugging me tightly. "Lucas, why are you doing this? Do you have any idea I've been going crazy looking for you? Do you know how much I've missed you?" She held me so tightly it felt like she was trying to merge me into her body. "Ms. Thompson, please let go. Don't call me Ms. Thompson." "If you act like this, Ms. Thompson, aren't you afraid your fiancé will get angry?" She froze for a moment. I sighed softly. "Ms. Thompson, please have some self-respect." The repeated use of Miss Thompson finally pushed her to the edge. Her lips trembled as she spoke. "Lucas, The dim yellow light from the street lamp under the tree made it seem for a moment like I saw guilt in her eyes. But in less than a second, I let out a sad laugh. "We were always from different worlds. A proper goodbye is the best ending for both of us." Boom! A clap of thunder cracked across the sky. Another summer had arrived. Fat raindrops began to fall, splattering on the pavement and kicking up dust. Watching people hurry into the subway entrance, I planned to do the same before the heavy rain started. "Goodbye, Miss Thompson." The farewell I hadn't said 2 years ago was finally spoken today. Eliza didn't try to stop me. Until I had entered the subway station, she remained rooted to the spot, as still as a statue. All around her, people rushed past to get out of the rain. I paused and glanced back at her. She was looking at me, her lips moving slightly. The distance was too great. I couldn't hear what she was saying. I couldn't understand what she was trying to say either. In an instant, the pouring rain soaked her completely, but she didn't move an inch, standing tall and motionless. She looked just like she had when I first found her. Back then, she had fallen from a vibrant New York heiress to a broken, penniless woman. At the darkest moment of her life, she felt no human warmth. Blind and with an injured leg, even after her leg healed, she remained self-destructive. One day during a heavy storm, she stood on the ridge of a field in the village. Below her was a swollen river. I panicked and threw my arms around her. "Eliza, are you crazy? That's a river down there. If you fall in during this season, you'll die." The rain was so heavy I could barely open my eyes, but I didn't dare loosen my grip on her. She just laughed, completely unconcerned. "Then let me die. No one will care anyway." "Who said no one cares? I care." Thunder rumbled across the sky, and a brilliant flash of lightning struck a nearby hillside with a deafening crash. She turned her unseeing eyes, searching for me. Like a lost, homeless child, she asked weakly, "Will you have me?" I nodded forcefully, with absolute certainty. Yes, I'll have you. Once I was on the train, I finally realized what Eliza had just been saying. You don't want me anymore. A sudden, sharp pain shot through my heart. I forced myself to stay composed, walked onto the train, and grabbed a handrail. Only after the train started moving did the tears begin to silently fall. Eliza, who was it that didn't want who? Even if I came from a poor village, I wasn't some backup plan you could summon at will. I wasn't some little friend who could never be seen in public. The next day, I went to work as usual. As soon as I reached the entrance, my coworker pulled me back outside. That guy from yesterday is back. He's asking for you by name. Mr. Chen? Yeah, he doesn't look happy, and he was just asking us a lot of questions about you. My coworker looked at me with concern. Lucas, you didn't piss off these rich people, did you? I shook my head. When I got inside, my manager gave me a stern talk. I couldn't let the VIP client leave empty-handed again. I went up to the second-floor VIP lounge and heard a man, Alex Chen, on the phone speaking French. He's just a sales clerk, not worth making a big deal about. I'll make him understand that poor people need to accept their fate. When he saw me come in, he didn't bother to end his call. He just pointed at a pair of shoes and told me to kneel and serve him. I knelt on one knee, just as I had yesterday. But this time he used the tip of his shoes to lift my chin. His voice dripped with condescending disdain. I like it when you're on both knees. Then he continued his phone conversation. These poor people are so pathetic. For a few bucks, there's nothing they won't sell. My lips pressed into a thin line, but I chose to stand up. Alex Chen, still chattering away, noticed I wasn't following his orders. He shot me a cold glare. Who told you to stand up so high? Mr. Chen, I am a sales associate, not your servant. Is that so? I'll buy all of this. Will you serve me now? He gestured casually at merchandise worth 7 figures, plus a 6-figure bag. I didn't move. He kept adding more. The amount was staggering. When the total climbed to nearly $10 million, I finally agreed. Only this time, I was smarter. I told him directly that he would have to pay first. Kneeling service? Fine. Who was I to argue with money? He was right. We're all just hustling for a few bucks. When he heard the words, "pay first," his face darkened. What do you mean? You're just a little sales clerk, and you want to tell a customer when to pay? I looked at him with a faint smile, neither submissive nor defiant. Of course not. It's just that the kind of extra service Mr. Chen is requesting is only available after the bill has been paid. He was so angry he picked up a cup of hot tea from the table, about to throw it at me. For some reason, he stopped, put the tea down. He grabbed a bottle of mineral water instead, walked over, and poured it over my head. My coworker, coming up the stairs, was shocked. Mr. Chen, what do you think you're doing? After he had emptied the entire bottle, the man in front of me contemptuously tossed it aside. He looked at me with disgust. You're just a poor bastard from some dirt-poor village. If you know what's good for you, you'll crawl away on your own. Otherwise, things will only get more embarrassing for you. My coworker grabbed some tissues to help me wipe the water from my face. He confronted Mr. Chen. That was incredibly insulting. Insulting? Mr. Chen sat back down. I'm just teaching him a lesson, a little wake-up call. He took out his phone and snapped a few pictures of my pathetic state. Then he continued his conversation in French. Ethan, look! Doesn't he look like a miserable stray dog on the street? It's fine, he can't understand what I'm saying anyway. Besides, even if he had 100 times the nerve, he wouldn't dare go telling on me to Eliza. I bent down, picked up a tissue, and slowly wiped the water from myself. Then I took out my phone, found Eliza's number, and called her. I spoke calmly. "Eliza, tell your people to stay away from me." The VIP lounge fell silent. Mr. Chen was completely stunned. His hand holding his phone tightened. I even continued right in front of him, speaking to Eliza in French. I don't know what this Mr. Chen has misunderstood, but he decided to come here and ruin my day. If he gets his kicks from insulting me, I'd appreciate it if you'd rein him in. After I finished, I hung up the phone. And Mr. Chen finally realized I could understand French. His face went from pale to flushed and back again. French and English were Eliza's second languages. She had taught me in the past, and for the last 2 years I had continued practicing my speaking skills with online tutors. So while I couldn't read or write it well, I could understand and speak it conversationally. He stammered for a moment, unable to get another word out. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he got up to leave. He took a few steps, then turned back to grab the bag he had forgotten. Looking at the room full of merchandise, my coworker complained once again. "Is that Mr. Chen crazy or something? Is he just messing with us? Orders a ton of stuff, doesn't buy a single thing." I took a deep breath and forced a slight smile. He wasn't here to buy anything. He was here to cause trouble for me. The Chen family. If I remembered correctly, Eliza's fiancé was a Chen, right? Just not this Mr. Chen. My coworker told me to go to the restroom and clean myself up. I looked at my water-soaked uniform and nodded. I hadn't realized how pathetic I looked until I saw my reflection. In the restroom, I saw that I really did look like a stray dog. My wet hair was a mess, plastered to my head. The white shirt underneath was soaked through, clinging to my skin. It was a complete disaster. When I got back to my station after cleaning up, Eliza was already waiting there. "Lucas." She strode toward me. Her eyes held a glimmer of joy that I couldn't quite figure out. I figured she must have misunderstood something. Did she think my calling her for help was some kind of indirect attempt at getting back together? At that thought, my face hardened. "Ms. Thompson, your friend Mr. Chen has interfered with my work. I hope it doesn't happen again." I was just an ordinary person. I needed to work. I needed my commission. I needed to eat. I didn't have time to be a plaything for rich people like them. Seeing my cold and distant attitude, the expression on Eliza's face wilted like a frostbitten flower. It fell instantly. She didn't say much more, just gave a single promise. "It won't happen again." Before she left, she spent a fortune buying a huge pile of things. She put it all under my sales ID, and for the shipping address, she wrote down my address. I kept my eyes lowered and spoke in a professional tone. "Ms. Thompson, employees are not allowed to receive packages for customers." She didn't argue, just changed it to a local address. And she specifically requested that I deliver it personally. 7:02 p.m. That was the time she set. When the time came, I deliberately asked my coworker to come with me to make the delivery. When Eliza opened the door, her face fell. "Ms. Thompson, here are the items you purchased from our store today. The items have been delivered, so we won't disturb you any further." I went things down and turned to leave. But then I saw a photo of her and me displayed in the living room. In it, I was smiling brightly, my arm draped over her shoulder. She had a slight upturn of her lips, but her eyes were full of laughter. It was like a message telling me that we had once been in love. My coworker saw it too, and gave me a surprised look. I pretended I hadn't seen anything and started to walk away. But Eliza grabbed my hand. "Lucas, don't go." The lighting was perfect, casting a bright circle around her. The scene was so dramatic, like a movie coming to life. But I knew I didn't want to be that little friend. I looked down at the fingertips, trying so desperately to hold me back. The long, thin bones were visibly tense with the effort. I used to love holding her hand, interlocking our fingers. I would always tell her how beautiful her hands were, praising them with a grin. "Ms. Thompson, please have some self-respect." I slowly, firmly, and intentionally pulled my hand away. In the past, I was the one who reached for her hand. Now I was the one pulling away. She looked like she was about to shatter, but she still uncurled her fingers one by one. After that, Eliza didn't bother me again. She was from New York, after all, and was just in Boston on business. I thought her appearance in my life would be as brief as a shooting star. After all, from the moment she told someone I was just a little friend, and with her engagement to the socially equal Mr. Chen, it was clear she was a very practical person. She had too much to lose, so she could never give it all up. In her balancing act of compromises, I was the one to be sacrificed. But my pride wouldn't let me accept that, so a clean break was the most logical result. I don't know when it started, but suddenly a lot of customers were requesting me by name, and every one of them was a big spender. They came from all over. It all seemed like normal business, but I had a feeling that Eliza was behind it. Until one day, a famous young heir from New York came into the store. The moment I saw him, I knew. It was Eliza's fiancé. He looked a bit like the troublemaker, Alex Chen. They were probably cousins or something. This Mr. Chen, Ethan, was handsome and refined, with the look of an elite professional. There was very little about him online. What little there was praised his sharp business sense. They even said he had huge ambitions, not content with just being the CEO of his family's company. He was positioned to be the future head of the family. He paid for several $100,000 worth of items up front. Then he looked at me. "Mr. Miller, please come with me to the second floor." I thought he was going to humiliate me, but I never expected him to apologize. He said his younger cousin was immature and had caused me trouble. As we talked, his emotional intelligence was so high you couldn't find a single fault. But I could still feel his condescending gaze from above. He wasn't really here to apologize. When the conversation turned to my background, he elegantly criticized me. "Do you know why Eliza chose to support your village back then? Because she used to be in poor health, and a fortune teller told her mother that she needed to do some good deeds to balance her karma." After he finished, he stood up with a smile. "It was just a casual act of charity. There's no need to get too full of yourself." I stood there staring at him. Mr. Miller, it wasn't easy for Eliza to get where she is today. I don't mind your existence, but I hope you'll think carefully about your position." I understood what he was there for. He was telling me to be smart and disappear. His so-called not minding was the contempt of a superior for an inferior. I suddenly understood what Eliza had meant back then when she talked about the filth of the upper class. It was indeed disgusting. I quit my job again, and I left Boston. With the savings I had managed to scrape together over the past 2 years, I went to San Francisco. It was as if everything had returned to the starting point before I ever met Eliza. I cut myself off from all social media. I let time slowly drift by. When winter came, I took some food and stood by the bay, feeding the seagulls. Life was peaceful and quiet, but then I suddenly heard a surprised exclamation beside me. "That woman is so beautiful! She's been kneeling for 3 days. Are they filming a TikTok?" I heard she's that famous New York heiress. She's praying to the heavens to let her see the man she loves one more time. Oh my God, did the person she loves die? No, they said they broke up because of a misunderstanding. I glanced at the girl's phone. The video was of Eliza. She was kneeling devotedly before an altar, praying for something. I finally opened up my browser. I searched for Eliza Thompson, and I discovered that in the short 6 months I had been offline, a lot had happened. She had called off her engagement to the Chen family. At a banquet in front of all the guests, she had poured champagne all over Alex Chen. It was a total humiliation. The comments said it was because he had done something similar to the person she cared about. They also said that after Ethan Chen's engagement was broken, he was kicked out of the family's core leadership. The Thompson family also went through a major change. The second and third branches of the family were forced out of the business and left New York. Eliza became the youngest person to ever take control. In just 6 months, it was as if Eliza had raced through a checklist, getting everything done. All the ruthless decisions, the huge obstacles, the bloody battles, all condensed into these few concluding sentences. Now she was the winner, standing at the top. She should have been looking down on everyone, but instead, she was on her knees, devotedly praying to see me again. The nameless, important person she had mentioned to the media was finally revealed. His name is Lucas Miller. He is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. I want to tell him I never considered him an option. Everything I did was to clear the obstacles for our future. I watched the videos one by one, moment by moment. Only then did I realize she had just been enduring it all, plotting everything. A tidal wave of wanting washed over me. I rushed back to my rental, grabbed my bag, and headed for the airport. The chapel she was at was in New York, a place I knew well. By nightfall, I finally saw that familiar figure. She was still kneeling there. Her back was straight. A bodyguard beside her was trying to persuade her. "Miss Thompson, it's been 3 days. Mr. Miller still hasn't shown up. He probably hasn't seen the videos. Let's try another way." I saw them. Time seemed to stand still. The cold wind blowing in felt like it carried the warmth of summer, searing my heart. Eliza, kneeling before the altar, slowly turned around. Her eyes flickered. I stepped over the threshold and walked toward her, a mess of tears and laughter. "Eliza, I saw them." She scrambled to her feet and ran toward me. She threw her arms around me and spoke urgently. "Lucas, you overheard what I said to my mother's people, didn't you? I never really wanted you to be my little friend. I said that for my mother's spies to hear. I know my mother too well. She would never allow me to care so much for a man." I hugged her back and answered softly, "I know." On the way here, I had thought it all through. I was already half sure that what she had done was a strategic retreat. I also told myself that when I saw her this time, I had to get a clear answer. If she gave me any other excuse, this would be the last time I ever saw her. Thankfully, she explained it herself. I bit my lip and laid my cards on the table first. "Eliza, I will absolutely not be a little friend." She let go, placing her hands on my shoulders, her eyes fiery and serious. "Not a little friend. My husband. Will you be my husband?" I looked up at her, then glanced at the altar before us, and answered with a firm, heavy nod. "Yes,